Mysterious Saint Benedict reveals shocking secrets to overcome enemies and jealousy. Few knew what truly happened that night in the shadowy hills of Subiaco. The air hung thick with intrigue as whispers rippled through the gathered crowd. They spoke of miracles and madness, of a man touched by the divine. Saint Benedict, cloaked in the veneration of centuries, was both a beacon of hope and a tempest of jealousy. In the year 480, the world was a tumultuous landscape. Rome lay in ruins, a once great empire shattered by invaders and betrayal. Spiritual erosion spread like a disease in these chaotic times. But in the heart of Italy, amidst crumbling stone and starlit skies, a light flickered stubbornly. Benedict had retreated to the wilds, seeking solace, but found himself in the grip of profound revelations. The night was alive, the moon soaring high, casting a silvery glow. Crickets filled the air with their persistent symphony, setting the stage for something extraordinary. Benedict, driven by a force beyond the earthly, climbed the rugged slopes to his hidden cave. There, the atmosphere crackled with divine energy, thickening with unseen tensions. It was rumored that even the very rocks held secrets, echoing the past and present. And then came the vision's images blazing through his mind. Enemies encircled him, their faces twisted by envy, eyes glimmering with malice. They sought to destroy, to seize the light that radiated from his being. Yet he felt something else too, a warmth, a recognition from something greater. He was not alone. Unseen forces rallied and whispered truths, giving him the strength to rise above. Can one man truly conquer armies of jealousy and spite? As the shadows deepened around him, the air grew heavier. A gust of wind swept through the cave, sending a shiver down his spine. He hardened his resolve. Would he let fear drive him into silence? Or could he harness this revelation, share his journey, and wield it against the darkness threatening to engulf? He felt the weight of their eyes upon him, judgment swirling in the air like a storm waiting to unleash its fury. With a heartbeat echoing louder than a war drum, he stepped from the shadows. The very ground seemed to tremble underfoot. The onlookers gasped as he emerged, transformed. His gaze pierced through the crowd, igniting sparks of hope, defiance, and curiosity. What secrets would he divulge about overcoming those who sought to undermine him? The night held its breath, teetering on the brink of destiny. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. As dawn broke over the horizon, a hue of incandescent gold stretching across the sky, the whispers that once roared like a tempest began to settle into an expectant hush. The audience before Benedict transformed from shadowy figures obscured by night to individuals glowing softly in the morning light, their eyes now brimming with questions and yearning. The flicker of curiosity ignited by the mysteries Sebastian had teased forth burned brighter, warming the chilled air of uncertainty. Benedict, steadfast in body and spirit, looked into their faces, recognizing the vulnerability each held, much like himself. It was a shared essence of humanity. The perils of jealousy thrived in these hearts, feeding on the fears and discontent that had blossomed in a fractured world. But there was something more than mere envy lurking. It was perhaps their own longing for purpose and unity amidst chaos. With resolve, he began to speak, his voice steady and clear like flowing waters. How easy it is to see the enemy in another, to perceive a rival amidst friends. We are often blinded by our own insecurities, despising the very light others carry that we might wish for ourselves. It is not merely jealousy that draws a knife in the dark. It is fear, the fear of being left behind, of being unseen in the tapestry of life. Each word hung in the air, thick with conviction. The crowd shifted, their eyes widening as they reflected on the truths laid bare. Indy flourished where love should dwell. But could he guide them through this realization? Would they choose to cast their judgments aside and embrace the journey toward understanding? The cure for jealousy is not striving against one another, he continued, emboldened, but turning within, reflecting on the gift each one of us carries. When we celebrate the lights in our companions, we dispel the darkness within ourselves. The tremendous weight of his words struck a chord deep within them. Would they heed his call to unity, or would the shadows reclaim their hearts? Suddenly, a figure emerged from the group, her presence piercing through the vibrations of vulnerability. It was a woman, her deep-set eyes clouded with sorrow and doubt. But how, Benedict? How can we cast aside the bitterness that has defined us, the scars that others have inflicted? The wounds don't easily mend. A hush fell over the crowd, each heart teetering between hope and despair. Benedict stood still, contemplating her words. Healing begins with the smallest step, my sister. Even the most daunting mountains crumble before the persistence of water over time. Let us speak openly about our pains, and rejoice in each other's victories, no matter how small. By weaving our stories together, we begin to create a tapestry of resilience and support. We must be willing to strip away our armor of jealousy, and step into the vulnerability of trust. The sun ascended higher, illuminating faces etched with concern, curiosity, and a flicker of hope. Yet questions lingered, just as shadows cling to the edges of light. Could they truly let go of their burdens? Would they risk taking the first step into such frail waters? As the silence deepened, a final question echoed in the minds of all present. If they were to unlock their hearts and lay bare their souls, might they discover the power to overcome the envy that shackled them not only to conflict with each other, but to the darkness within? The sun, now a commanding beacon in the midday sky, cast a warmth that enveloped the gathering, yet amidst the radiance, shadows clung stubbornly to their hearts. Benedict felt the palpable tension, a constellation of unuttered truths swirling before him. He recognized that healing was a complex tapestry, woven not only with moments of joy but also threads of pain and regret. As he surveyed the faces in front of him, he noticed the anguish etched upon the brow of the woman who had spoken. "Sister," he began, his voice taking on a tone of gentle inquiry, "what is the heaviness that rests upon your soul? Speak, so the rest may hear and learn." Hesitation hung in the air like an unseen fog, lingering around the edges of her sense of vulnerability. Finally, with a deep breath that seemed to bring forth the weight of countless sorrows, she replied, "I once had a friend, a true companion, but my heart became a prison when envy took root." Her light shone brightly, and I, too afraid to share my own, began to plot her downfall. I cast shadows where I should have built bridges. Her confession punctured the unspoken fears in the gathering, each listener grappling with their own narratives of betrayal and longing. Benedict nodded solemnly, understanding the tug-of-war that jealousy often enacts within relationships. Indeed, envy is a consuming fire. It can quickly twist friendship into animosity. But what if I told you that in your darkest moments, there lies a path toward transformation? What if the very act of reconciling with those we hurt could lead to light breaking forth in our own lives? The crowd leaned in, eyes widened. As he spoke of reconciliation, a word heavy with meaning, yet light with promise. While trust may have frayed, the seeds of forgiveness can lay dormant within your heart. To forgive does not excuse the wrong, but instead grants freedom to the soul. When we unveil the truth of our emotions, we can find strength in vulnerability. Have you reached out? Is there a way to mend that which has been broken? The woman's gaze fell, her spirit battling within her, torn between the comfort of past grievances and the aching need for catharsis. How can I approach her now? Would she not see through the veil of insincerity? Is it not too late? Benedict stepped forward, his eyes softening. Vulnerability carries a weight of honesty that often transcends the scars of the past. It is precisely in these fragile moments that true connection can begin anew. Approach her not with eloquent words, but with the sincerity of your heart. Admit your failings, and perhaps, in her own pain, she will find understanding. The air crackled with a shared realization. The gathering sensed the power not just of confession, but of the potential for renewed relationships. As the woman pondered his words, Benedict turned his gaze to the entire audience. If we truly seek to overcome the chains of jealousy, we must collectively lean into the sacred act of humility. What if the very vulnerabilities that divide us are the pathways to understand one another? What if our greatest strength lies in admitting our weaknesses? The crowd murmured softly, grappling with the profound implications of such a truth. As the sun continued its ascent, casting long shadows on the ground, the flicker of hope ignited brighter within them. Yet, amid the encouragement, questions persisted like echoes in the recesses of their minds. Would they risk the vulnerability of approaching each other, rebuilding the bonds they had allowed to fracture? Or would they retreat, allowing jealousy to reclaim its hold, overshadowing the light of potential healing and connection? As the sun dipped lower in the sky, casting the gathered assembly in a golden haze, Benedict felt the currents of change ripple through the crowd. He sensed this was merely the beginning of a deeper understanding, to search for truth layered beneath layers of fear. Consider, dear friends, he continued, the essence of love, which drives us to forgive and forget. It challenges the very fabric of our being and compels us to confront not just our foes, but also our very selves. A young man, leaning forward, raised his hand. But what of the pain that lingers? The memories of betrayal do not dissipate easily. How can one cultivate love when one's heart is still healing? Benedict's expression softened, for he knew the depths of such sorrow. Ah, yes. Pain is a cruel teacher, yet also a revealing one. It unlocks doors within our spirits, exposing both our frailty and potential. Healing is not a straight path, but a winding journey. It requires patience, both from ourselves and those we seek to reconcile with. Consider the roots of a tree. They twist and intertwine, often hidden beneath the ground, yet they draw nourishment from the earth to stand tall. The crowd, captivated, began to share their stories, each voice weaving a rich tapestry of hardship, yearning, and hope. An elder woman shared her tale of a long-estranged sibling, memories of laughter tainted by misunderstandings. I dare not reach out for fear of rejection, she confessed, her voice trembling. What if she casts me away again? Benedict smiled gently, recognizing the bravery in her vulnerability. To reach out is not merely an act of seeking connection. It is an offering of your heart. It is a seed sown in faith that can grow given time. The outcome is not yours alone to determine. Sometimes, the act of extending kindness is the greatest healing balm for our own spirits. And yet, a man interjected, his brow furrowed with skepticism. What if our kindness is met with hostility? It is easy to preach forgiveness, but it feels like a knife at our backs when the ones we wish to forgive only wound us deeper. Indeed, my friend, Benedict said, leaning closer, his eyes shining with a profound depth. The path of reconciliation is rife with danger, but also abundant with possibility. The fear of being hurt is real. Yet, it is in those very moments, when we deny our fear and choose love, that we step into the realm of the divine. God himself faced betrayal and abandonment, yet forgiveness flowed forth like a river, a testament to the strength hidden within weakness. Silence enveloped the crowd, an invitation to reflect on their own struggles with forgiveness and connection. Yet, a particular tension remained. Could they truly summon the courage to confront their past grievances? What if we fail? The young man mused, the doubt clear in his voice. What if our returns are met with derision instead of understanding? Benedict's gaze swept the gathering, a knowing smile gracing his lips. Failure is not the opposite of success. It is part of the journey. Every step taken toward honesty and reconciliation is a victory in itself. Embrace your fear, for it is the herald of growth. Remember, you carry within you the power of transformation, and through recognizing your own fragility, you beckon to others to do the same. What if, instead of viewing one another as enemies, we began to see the architects of our healing? A soft whisper traversed the gathering, echoing Benedict's message as each person wrestled with their own dilemmas, juxtaposing hope with uncertainty. Would they emerge from the shadows, brave enough to extend their hands toward those they once turned from? Or would the weight of their apprehensions root them in isolation, denying themselves the grace of connection? As twilight softly settled over the assembly, the air became thick with anticipation and unresolved tension. Benedict stood before the crowd, illuminated by the gentle glow of the setting sun. The heaviness of their shared burdens created an almost palpable energy, and he felt the moment ripe for deeper inquiry. A few brave souls had begun to peel back layers of fear, yet questions still lingered, intertwined with hope and doubt. "Let us consider, dear friends," he began, his voice steady and inviting, "the powers of jealousy and enmity that can dominate our hearts. They are whispers in the night, luring us towards bitterness and division. But what if I were to tell you that this darkness is not simply to be feared, but can also serve as a powerful catalyst for change? Jealousy often reveals our greatest insecurities. When we witness the success or joy of another, it reflects that which we yearn for but cannot grasp. A young woman, her eyes bright yet veiled with uncertainty, spoke up. "How can we confront our jealousy without succumbing to it? It feels as if it has roots deep within me, so intertwined with my spirit that uprooting it seems impossible." Benedict nodded, his expression deepening. Recognizing this root is the first step. Like weeds in a garden, jealousy grows silently, choking the life out of our joy and gratitude. But know this, addressing the root does not imply a battle against another, but rather a profound confrontation with oneself. Reflect on what it is that you seek in the other. What desires does their glow ignite within you? The woman considered his words, nodding slowly as understanding began to dawn. "So, you're saying that by acknowledging my own desires, I can begin to transform this envy into something life-giving?" "Indeed," Benedict replied, warmth filling his gaze. "When you align with your own longing, the weights of others' successes become lighter. You may find that you shift from competition to celebration. Instead of viewing your neighbor's achievements as a reflection of your failures, consider them a testament to the potential that lies within each of us. Every flame lit does not diminish your light. Rather, it invites you to fan your own flame brighter." An uncomfortable silence fell over the assembly. Doubt was still threaded through their resolve. A man, his voice shaking slightly, dared to challenge, "But what a betrayal! Is it not betrayal that leads us to jealousy in the first place? How do we cultivate love for those who have wronged us while grappling with such deep-rooted pain?" Benedict's sincerity deepened. "You touch upon a profound truth, my friend. Betrayal is a wound that can pierce to the very core of our being. Yet consider this. It is through our response to betrayal that we discover the true essence of love. Perhaps, in the heart of the wound, lies the key to our liberation. It is not only our enemies who can teach us, but also those who have caused us pain. They may reveal the depth of our capacity for forgiveness, as well as the transformative power we possess." The crowd murmured, caught in a delicate web of revelation. Each story shared had transformed into a thread, weaving together their heartfelt experiences of pain and yearning. They could feel the weight of their collective struggles morphing into a tapestry of resilience, one that shouted of both fragility and strength. One voice, a frail yet determined whisper, spoke up. "But what if we are afraid of losing ourselves in the pursuit of reconnection? What if, in forgiving others, we somehow betray the memory of our pain?" Benedict's eyes glimmered with wisdom. To forgive does not equate to forgetting or minimizing the hurt. It is the act of releasing the hold that pain has over you. The memory may remain, but its power diminishes. You do not lose yourself but rebirth yourself like a phoenix from the ashes. Such is the miracle of love and forgiveness. As the sun began to dip below the horizon, ushering in twilight, uncertainty swirled among them, like leaves caught in a gentle breeze. The assembly pondered their own emotions. Reflections of betrayal and hope dancing on the edges of their consciousness. What inner fires might be ignited if they dared to muster the courage to confront their fears? Would they find healing in their willingness to embrace both the light and dark of their experiences? Or would the shadows of jealousy and betrayal continue to ensnare them in darkness? The flickering of candles lined the edges of the gathering, casting playful shadows that mingled with the encroaching night. There was a stillness, as if the very air held its breath, waiting for Benedict to guide them further into the depths of understanding. The faces before him reflected a myriad of emotions, a kaleidoscope of anguish, revelation, and tentative hope. "Friends," Benedict began, his voice carrying a gentle cadence, "as we delve deeper into our hearts, we must not shy away from the complexities of our emotions. Jealousy, pain, and betrayal are woven into the fabric of our lives, yet they do not define us. Though they can appear as storms, they can also be the winds that guide us toward new horizons." He paused, letting his words wash over them like a soothing balm, and then gestured to the twinkling stars above. "Consider the heavens, how they are filled with countless stars, each one a distinct light in the vastness of the universe. Some stars burn brightly, while others may seem dim in comparison. Yet, without the contrast of darkness, none would be noticed. Just as we each play a crucial role in the tapestry of creation, so too does each experience, whether painful or joyous, serve to illuminate the path. An older man, his brow furrowed with years of burden, raised his hand. "But how do we embrace this darkness without being consumed by it? How can we extinguish the fire of jealousy before it spreads out of control?" "That," Benedict replied with sincerity, "is the very essence of our examination tonight. We must learn to sit with these emotions, to acknowledge them as part of our human experience. There is wisdom in the unease we feel, a whisper guiding us to the root of our suffering. In truth, we are often called to be both the humble gardener and the wary weed." A ripple of confusion spread through the crowd, as if each heart was weighing the call to cultivate understanding against the instinct to flee from pain. "Consider, then, the practice of mindfulness," Benedict continued, his tone steady. "When jealousy arises, do not simply dismiss it. Instead, ask yourself, what is it that I fear? What vulnerabilities are being exposed? Draw close to those feelings and recognize they are invitations to awaken your truth. By doing so, we can transform jealousy into compassion for ourselves and others." The air felt electric, as if the collective hearts were beginning to awaken to this new insight. A young boy, hesitant yet emboldened, spoke up from the fringes. "What if compassion is hard to find? What if we only see the betrayal? The heart is a garden, young one," Benedict responded, his eyes softening. "Sometimes we must dig through the weeds to uncover fertile soil. There is no shame in facing difficulty. Each struggle is an opportunity to cultivate deeper understanding. In the shadows of betrayal lies a sliver of growth waiting to emerge, though it may require patience to nurture." Just then, a chilling wind swept through the assembly, rustling leaves like a reminder of the transient nature of life. It drew shudders from their skin, as if the environment itself recognized the gravity of their discourse. "What of those who choose to remain in darkness?" a voice called, breaking the contemplative silence. "What if they do not wish to transform, but to inflict their pain onto others? What do we do with that betrayal?" Benedict mused quietly, "the heart of the matter indeed lies with choice. Some may choose to remain bound by their pain, shackled by hurt. But remember, dear friends, our responses to others' darkness are within our dominion. When faced with shadow, we can choose to be the light, to stand firm in our awareness and compassion, creating ripples of understanding that may eventually bridge the chasms. As the twilight deepened, filling the sky with hues of purple and indigo. The sense of unease among the assembly began to shift toward a yearning for resolution, a beacon beckoning them forward. Yet, even as they stirred with newfound awareness, an unsettling question lingered in the air like the scent of autumn leaves. How can one truly embrace the light of compassion while still feeling the pull of darkness? Would their efforts to transform their own shadows lead to the healing they sought, or would the weight of betrayal still anchor them in the depths of despair? Benedict stood silent for a moment, absorbing the weight of the questions that hung like low-hanging mist in the gathering. The flicker of the candle flames danced sporadically, as if in agreement with the uncertainty that enveloped them. The elder, who had posed the question of those who choose the shadows, seemed lost in contemplation, the lines on his face deepening as he wrestled with the truths being unearthed. A hush fell upon the assembly, accompanied only by the soft rustling of nature. It was as if they were all suspended between what had been discussed and what lay ahead. The moon, now partially obscured by a veil of clouds, cast an ethereal light on the gathering, hinting at the mysteries yet to unfold. It was a reminder, perhaps, that even the brightest light could be shrouded in darkness. Have you ever wondered, Benedict began again, his voice low and contemplative, if our troubles with jealousy and betrayal are not just external battles, but also internal skirmishes? The enemies we encounter often reflect the shadows within ourselves. He paused, letting the weight of his words settle in. When we interact with the world, we do so armed with the perceptions forged in the fires of our own experiences. What if, dear friends, instead of confronting foes in our lives, we recognize them as mirrors? A murmur rippled across the groups of nodding and understanding, others watching with apprehension. It was a difficult concept to grasp, the idea that their adversaries might not merely be present to inflict pain, but rather to reveal vulnerabilities they had yet to recognize within. Another voice emerged, tender but firm. How do we confront the reflection we see when it bears the mark of betrayal? When our hearts have been fractured by those we trusted? Benedict's gaze softened, and he drew a breath as if to gather the fragments of wisdom he had not yet shared. Embrace the truth that betrayal, like all shadows, carries with it a lesson. Each wound is an opportunity for growth, a call to examine not only the actions of others, but also the resilience of our own hearts. The journey to healing begins with acknowledgement, with saying to ourselves, "This hurt is real, but it will not define me." He gestured again toward the stars twinkling in the dark expanse, distant yet eternal. The cosmos itself bears witness to the phenomenon of transformation. Stars are born from the dust of collapsed supernovae, reminding us that from destruction comes creation. We, too, can gather the remnants of our pain and sculpt them into something beautiful. In the cradle of vulnerability, strength often awaits. The younger boy who had spoken earlier shifted restlessly, absorbing the weight of Benedict's words. But what if healing feels impossible? What if the weight of betrayal is too heavy? His voice quivered slightly, revealing the rawness beneath his brave facade. Young one, Benedict replied gently, it is natural to feel that way at times. Healing is not a linear journey. It can twist and turn like an untamed river. But remember, your heart can resist the darkness, like a flame flickering against the wind. In moments when the journey feels most daunting, it is the small victories that pave the way toward renewal. Celebrate the steps, however tiny, and allow yourself to grieve. In doing so, you honor your experience. The atmosphere shifted again, pregnant with anticipation. Each soul present contemplated their own experiences through a lens of reflection, wrestling with the idea that perhaps their adversaries were present to instruct rather than destroy. Yet questions still danced in their minds, chased by the shadows of their doubts. As the gathering approached a moment of stillness, Benedict sensed the deepening need for exploration amongst them. You see, we have only begun to scratch the surface of understanding the breadth of our emotions. What might we uncover if we were to ask ourselves not only about our shadows, but also in whom we find light? Where do we turn when seeking comfort? Who uplifts us in times of sorrow? And what lessons do those relationships impart? With that, a contemplative silence reignited the air, urging the assembly to delve deeper into their hearts as the night darkened around them. Each member reflected on the ties that bound them together, yet the unresolved question remained: how do we foster the light of compassion within ourselves and others, while remaining vigilant against the shadows that threaten to bring despair? Bennett's words hung in the air, infusing the night with both weight and wonder. Beneath the cloak of darkness, each heart wrestled silently with the dance between shadows and light. The flickering candles illuminated their faces, revealing expressions etched with curiosity, pain, and a yearning to understand life beyond mere survival. A woman at the edge of the circle spoke, her voice breaking the stillness. If our enemies are mirrors, what if we gaze into that mirror and see not merely the reflection, but the source of our pain? Are we then destined to relive betrayal and jealousy over and over again, or is there a path forward? Benedict nodded thoughtfully at her poignant question. Indeed, the act of looking inward can be unnerving. Recognizing that the darkness outside is often a manifestation of our inner turmoil can lead to a transformative, albeit challenging, journey. Yet facing the truth can also ignite the liberation of understanding. It is the realization that we hold the power to choose our responses, not merely the power to react. Another voice, hoarse with emotion, chimed in from the back of the assembly. What if the fear of vulnerability keeps us locked in a cycle of anguish? How do we break free from the grip of these shadows before they consume us? This brings us to a vital truth, Benedict replied, a light of understanding flickering in his eyes. To break free from the chains of betrayal and regret, we must first cultivate authenticity in our human experiences. Embrace the discomfort of vulnerability. It is a chiseling away at the hard edges of our hearts to allow for the essence of love and compassion to flow through. To be honest with ourselves and others is a formidable act of bravery, one that invites healing. One of the older attendees, a gentleman with a weathered face, interjected softly. Yet, dear Benedict, what are the moments when we falter? When betrayal stings too deeply, the wounds refuse to heal? How do we walk the path of compassion when our hearts bear the scars of past injuries? Ah, those moments reveal another layer of our journey, Benedict said, his tone imbued with compassion. It is in those very fractures where new wisdom lies hidden. Do not shun your scars, for they tell the tale of survival and growth. Perhaps instead of concealing them, we can share our trials openly, allowing the rawness of our experiences to unify us. Each wound can become a testament of resilience and a bridge to empathy. Taking a deep breath, he addressed the group. What will it take for us to one day embrace both our light and our shadows? How do we open the gates of our hearts wide enough to allow both acceptance and transformation? The answers lie not in grand gestures, but in the quiet moments of gratitude we extend to ourselves and to one another. As he finished, a stillness enveloped them, broken only by a gentle breeze that whispered through the trees. It was as though nature itself was absorbing and reflecting the collective resolve that had begun to take root. His eyes scanned the assembly, cherishing each contemplative face. What if we dared to ask not only how we can heal ourselves, but also how our stories can illuminate paths for others, lighting the way through valleys of darkness? Do our wounds not serve as guides for those who traverse similar paths? With that, a series of soft exchanges began, stirring the silence into sound as individuals sought to share their own journeys of pain and healing. Yet, within this newfound connection lay an unresolved question that shimmered just beneath the surface. How do we cultivate an enduring spirit of hope and resurrection within our hearts, even as we traverse through grief and doubt? As the night deepened, the shadows danced more fervently around the flickering candles, echoing the intensity of the conversations unfolding. The air felt charged with anticipation as Benedict sat quietly, the weight of the assembly pressing upon him like a heavy mantle. He sensed their energies converging, merging individual stories into a collective tapestry woven by pain, hope, and an earnest desire for healing. "Let us ponder deeper," Benedict began, his voice steady yet soft. "Imagine if our enemies, whether they be individuals or mere embodiments of our fears, served not just as adversaries, but also as teachers. What wisdom lies hidden in the echoes of our strained relationships?" A young man, his brow furrowed with thought, raised his hand hesitantly. "But how can we approach those who have hurt us with a spirit of inquiry? Isn't it natural to retreat, to wall ourselves away from such pain?" Benedict met his gaze with serene understanding. "It is indeed a natural instinct to shield ourselves from hurt. Yet, what if therein lies our greatest opportunity for growth? By confronting our wounders with compassion rather than resentment, we reframe the narrative. We no longer view them merely as obstacles, but rather as catalysts for our evolution. Can we extend an olive branch, even when our hearts are tender and bruised?" The woman from the edge of the circle spoke again, her eyes glistening. "But what of the ones who have betrayed us deeply? Is it possible to see them as anything but enemies? The scars they've left are not mere reminders. They are wounds that ache with memory." A collective breath arose from the group, as if all had experienced a prick of recognition. Benedict nodded, his expression grave yet hopeful. "Indeed, such wounds may run deep, and forgiveness can appear insurmountable. But perhaps we must first ask ourselves, what lies behind the betrayal? At the heart of every conflict is often fear or misunderstanding. By seeking to understand their motives, we may unravel the very threads of our anguish. As he spoke, the atmosphere shifted subtly, a stillness settling like a soft blanket. The flames from the candles flickered in agreement, creating a rhythm that mirrored the heartbeat of those gathered. With a soft smile, Benedict continued, "In the act of seeking understanding, we allow the possibility of transformation. It is in the confrontation that we can rediscover our voice, reclaim our power, and soften our hearts." From within the group, an elder woman began to weep softly. "What if, even with understanding, we find that the betrayal was too great for reconciliation? How do we find peace within ourselves?" "No easy answers exist," Benedict replied delicately. "And yet, I believe that finding peace begins with acceptance. Acceptance of our own pain, our own limitations, and the recognition that not all broken relationships can be mended. We must be bold enough to let go when necessary, even if that means releasing our hold on past grievances." This invitation to contemplation rekindled fervent discussions, but a nagging question hung in the air, unexpressed. How do we give ourselves permission to grieve what once was, while simultaneously opening our hearts to the potential of what could be? What would it take for our stories to comfort not only ourselves, but also those who share in our struggles? As the moon rose high, its silvery beams illuminating the faces of those gathered, a profound silence enveloped the assembly. Each heart beat in unison, tethered by the fragile threads of understanding that had emerged through honesty and vulnerability. Benedict felt the weight of their collective spirit, as though they were holding their breath, poised on the brink of a revelation that could transform their lives. He stepped forward, his heart resonating with the energy of those present. "Today, among these hills, we gather not only to confront the shadows that dwell within us, but to forge a path toward illumination. Darkness can indeed be a teacher, but only if we choose to listen and learn. In the stillness, a voice cut through the air, a middle-aged man, with a furrowed brow, trembling with emotion. "But what if our willingness to forgive invites more betrayal? How do we protect our hearts while still seeking connection?" With compassion, Benedict replied, "To forgive does not mean to ignore our instincts or blind ourselves to the potential for pain. Instead, it is an act of strength, an understanding that redemptive love is more powerful than the fear of vulnerability. Protecting our hearts does not reside in building walls, but in nurturing resilience. Trust is nurtured over time, through consistent actions and conversations." The crowd hung on to his words. They experienced a shared awakening, their fears slowly transmuting into a quiet, emerging faith. They nodded in recognition of the intricate dance between vulnerability and courage, leaning into the heart of their growing understanding. Benedict continued, "What if, instead of viewing our relationships as transactions of betrayal and jealousy, we understood them as opportunities for growth? Each encounter, each moment of conflict, is a chance to be shaped. The very act of embracing our discomfort can lead us to forge bonds that are truer and deeper than those built on fragile facades." As he spoke, the night deepened, a tapestry of vivid stars unfolding above them. The flickering candles against the encroaching darkness became symbols of their emerging hope. He leaned in, his gaze sweeping over every face in the crowd. Do not underestimate the power of your words when reframed by compassion. What could happen if we chose to express to others the light we see in them? What if every encounter carried the potential for transformation? Can we truly change those who have wronged us? Another voice questioned, tinged with doubt. Benedict smiled, warmth radiating from his presence. "Ah, dear friend, remember that change is often a gradual process, born from the seeds of compassion we plant. We may not be able to budge mountains, but we can certainly soften our own hearts, which can inspire others to reassess their own paths. It is in the act of opening up, sharing truth, embracing our vulnerabilities that we foster authentic connections." A gentle breeze swept through the gathering, lending strength to their resolve. They began to see the power of their own stories, how through sharing their pain, they could illuminate the path for one another. The atmosphere thrummed with renewed energy, a synapse of unity sparking in their collective consciousness. Benedict took a moment, scanning the assembly before him. "Now, I ask you not to leave this space with mere words, but rather to carry forth an intention. Find one person you know you have hurt, or who has crossed you. Extend kindness, not as a tool for manipulation, but as a genuine offering to mend both your hearts." Gasps filled the air as they absorbed the weight of his challenge. Their hearts raced with purpose and fear, torn between the desire to protect themselves and the hope of reconciliation. But in the stillness that followed, a shared resolve began to rise. "Let love and compassion be your compass," Benedict urged. "Let humility guide your interactions. We are all travelers on this winding journey of life. Difficulty can often accompany us, but it need not dictate our routes. When we embrace openness and vulnerability, we dispel the darkness that jealousy breeds. We carve out spaces for connections that uplift our spirits." As the moon bathed the assembly in silver light, a wave of warmth surged through them. They had touched upon a truth that felt transcendent, something larger than their individual struggles. In this moment, they realized the significance of their shared humanity. Then, Benedict stood tall against the tender night sky, his voice ringing with fervor. "And remember, sometimes it is in our greatest challenges, our betrayals, and our conflicts that the light is found. The very act of overcoming jealousy paves the way for harmony and healing. The light that shines from each of you can pierce through any darkness." He paused, letting the words steep in the souls before him. "As you leave this gathering, take with you not just the lessons of the night, but the understanding that within each of you lies the potential for transformation. Who you are can change the world." With those final affirmations, the crowd sat transfixed. A sense of solidarity ignited, propelling them forward into their lives with newfound courage. The stars sparkled above, a divine inspiration awash in clarity, inviting them to embrace their struggles, reconcile their differences, and extend love into the unknown. They left the gathering changed, less shackled by jealousy, armed with vulnerability, and ready to seed connections that could grow into profound healing. In the eons to come, their journey would ripple through generations, their stories forever entwined with the fabric of humanity. As the echoes of their conversation quietly faded into the night, the legacy of their gathering lingered in the air, an everlasting testament to the truth that sometimes, in the shadows of chaos, profound transformation awaits.